What's up, everybody? Welcome to BioWest 3 Raw TV. Today, let's fix this fucking camera angle, make that shit square. Today, I want to talk to you guys about something that I usually don't touch on these subjects. It's the shooting in Florida with the high school kids. And I'm like a very non-political person. I'm a very kind of mind my own business, kind of do my own thing. I try not to get involved in shit, especially if I don't know about things like kids. Like, I don't have any kids. I don't know anything about fucking kids. So, you know, all these people like blaming the parents and all this stuff. Like, here's the deal. It seems almost like you hear about a school shooting now and you're like, okay, where is it this time? Like, it's almost like it's commonplace. Like, it's almost like normal now. Like, it happens so often and so widespread that you're just like, you kind of expect it to happen, right? If we didn't have any fucking school shootings for 2 years, like, we'd be like, well, that's weird, right? Because we're used to having them now. Like, what the fuck? And I think that as a society as a whole, it is the parents. I think the parents are to blame. I think that the school systems are to blame. I think that the kid is to blame. And I think that the culture in general is to blame. I think that the world, it's how it is right now, is just different than it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It's just different. But I do think that there are things that are easily accessible, especially online. Like, we didn't have it online when I was a kid. But there's information, there's things that can persuade young people online very easily because they're young and impressionable. And I myself was young and impressionable. I remember being, you know, a kid, and this is 100% true story. God's honest truth, right hand to God. We'll do right hand to God. Right hand to God. True story. I was probably about, maybe 7, 8, or 9. Maybe 8 or 9 years old. Maybe 3rd, 4th grade. I'm thinking more like 3rd grade for some reason. 2nd or 3rd grade, anyways, doesn't really matter. Barrington Middle School, no, Barrington Elementary School was Primrose Hill Elementary School, was where I went to school in Barrington, Rhode Island. And one day I go to school, and the teacher oversees me talking to some friends, and she looks over her shoulder, and she finds that I have a fucking knife, a lock blade buck knife, like one of these, like, you know, you got to think back to like the 80s. Like, it kind of pulls out of the side. It's got like a brownish handle with like gold on the top and bottom. And it was like, you know, I don't even know what you would use the knife for, but I had it in school. And I had the thing attached to my belt that you put the knife in, like the knife holster thing. Like, you fold it up, and it was only probably about that big. But I had it in the belt, and I was walking around with it on my belt in school. And I took it out and opened it to show some of the kids, and that's when the teacher came over. Well, needless to say, my parents get called. I'm in the principal's office, and I'm trying to figure out what I did wrong. Right? Now, let's face facts. My parents taught me not to fucking bring weapons to school, right? But here's the deal. Why would I bring that knife to school? Why did I even have it, right? What's the whole big deal? This is weird, right? This is funny. It's not funny. It's interesting. So when I was a kid growing up, there was a TV show called The Dukes of Hazzard. Now, some of you are going to laugh your fucking asses off. This is before Jessica Simpson was in it. This is like way back in the day, right? And Bo and Luke Duke both had these knives on their belt. And I thought it was like the coolest thing. I wanted to be like them. I wanted to drive fast cars. I wanted to jump them over ravines like them and shit. Like, you know, I wanted to be like the Dukes of Hazzard. And my dad, who grew up in Texas on a farm, very, you know, like shooting guns. I literally shot my first gun. Shit, my brother was still so small. So I was probably about 7 or 8, about the same age that I shot my first gun in Texas. We actually went to Texas when my father's stepfather passed away and left him a farm. When we went out to that farm, there was a .22 rifle there that my father brought me out in the backyard, and we were shooting coffee cans in the backyard at 8 years old. And I put the gun up in the air, and I pulled the trigger, and I actually shot a dove out of the sky. The bird hit the fucking ground. My dad was like, what the fuck? Totally true story. And he picks up the fucking dove, and he's like, what the fuck? Like, we're not supposed to kill doves. Like, it's illegal, but you killed it, now you got to eat it. I'm getting off. This is what happens when you have ADD. So, but anyways, so where my dad comes from, you start driving a car when you're like 14, like without a license. You didn't even need a license. They shoot guns in the backyard. Knives are something you just carry with you all the time as a kid, like for cutting rope or fucking whittling wood or whatever the fuck you're doing in Texas as a kid. Well, Rhode Island in the 80s, a little bit different, right? So he got me the knife. He got it for me at a flea market. So he had one and I had one. We had matching knives, like the Dukes of Hazzard had matching knives, right? I thought it was the coolest thing. Now, it was never told to me not to bring it to school, right? What was told to me was it was dangerous. You're not supposed to have it unless your father's around, Okay? Don't take it to school. You're not even supposed to have it unless your father's around. And even then, you know, you have to, you know, do whatever he tells you to with it, right? Cool. So what I do is I just go in his drawer and I take the knife out, put it on my belt, and I fucking go to school. He was already at work, right? Whatever. So I kind of disobeyed, you know, by putting the knife, but I wasn't thinking of it as a knife was something that I could kill someone with. On the show, they didn't use them for that. They used them to cut rope and shit. So in my head, I'm like, well, if I got to cut a rope at school, what the fuck? I'm like 8, right? But the bottom line is, here I am in school with a knife. Now, my parents, it wasn't their fault. They instructed me very clearly on what to do. It wasn't kids at school's fault. It was the fucking TV show that I interpreted. It was my own fault. But the bottom line is, there was an influence to my young mind that made it seem like it was okay. And to me, it was okay. Now, fast forward to now. The media that we have, like even I myself am very numbed or dulled to some of the things that you see. There are videos that you see of people being killed by some of these terrorist organizations. There's constantly somebody with a cell phone when someone crashes a motorcycle or cuts themselves or falls down off a fucking flight of stairs and breaks their fucking ankle and there's a bone sticking out. You're so desensitized to the shit that you can see at the flip of a switch on your cell phone, on your laptop, on your fucking iPad, whatever, that is a big problem. Like that desensitization, you know, I'll be 100% straight with you. Again, this goes back to when I was younger. We were actually on a field trip and a friend of mine climbed a tree, fell out of the tree and broke his wrist. Broke it in 2 places, here and here. Well, here and here. So this whole piece of his wrist was up here and the rest of his arm was down here. And I remember seeing that, freaking the fuck out. And for weeks I was upset. Like I couldn't even go to school and see him with the cast on his arm because I lose my shit. It was so scary. Nowadays you see so much shit like that. Somebody breaking their wrist is not a fucking big deal at all. Like, it's totally not a big deal. They see so much shit now, and it's so easily accessible. And, like, let's say you're a parent and you got it on lockdown at home. They go to their friend's house, and their fucking friend has it available. You know, like, there's almost no way to stop it if these kids want to see this shit. But bottom line is, I think the culture in general and the world in general has changed. We are more of a kind of a visual, multimedia culture now, where things that would have shocked us 20 years ago and we would have thought is a big deal and we shouldn't do that, turns out to be the norm nowadays. And I think that has a lot to do with it. You know, the video games, the stuff that you're going to see on here, even groups that these individuals, like this kid in high school, groups that you can become a part of that actually do a little bit of brainwashing in their fucking forums and shit. Like, there's just too much going on, and each individual is responsible for their own actions. Like this kid, he's responsible. People are going to blame the parents. The parents can only do so much. They can only tell you so many times you're not supposed to harm people. You're not supposed to bring a fucking gun to school. You're not supposed to do shit that fucking will hurt someone. You know, after you can only do so much, and then after that, it's up to that fucking person to make their own decisions. And even as a teenager, he is responsible for his own decision. Whatever the fuck was running through his head, he had the ability to stop it before it started, or, you know, let's just say fucking walk away from it. You know, if he had decided he was going to do it, just walk away from it last minute. He was the one that controlled the situation. And apparently he went out there and killed 17 kids because he was expelled from the school. So what are we really looking at here? Is it a mental health issue? Is it a desensitizing of the general public? I think it's all these things. I don't think there is one answer. I don't think taking guns away is going to solve it. I don't think that, beating your kids is going to solve it. I don't think fucking locking them in a room is going to solve it. I don't think sending them or, keeping them at home and homeschooling them, I don't think that is. I think society is in general has to change in the things that we're seeing. And here's the thing. Once you go back down a certain road, you head down a certain path, 99% of the time, it's impossible to go backwards. Like the world is heading in a certain direction. Society's heading in a certain direction. People want it to go backwards in the opposite direction. It's not going to happen. It has to hit a critical mass where it's so bad that so many laws have to be put in place and all kinds of other shit, which I don't see happening. With people trying to be so, nonchalant about well, don't say this because it's going to hurt their feelings and stuff. I think people just have to really fucking sack up and be like, here's the deal. We're going to put, when I was a kid, there's neighborhood watch. You'd run around outside the fucking night, and you can't do that now. People are like, well, what the fuck you doing out here? I'm neighborhood watch. Well, what do you think? I'm up to no good? Here in the fucking 12:30 and you're walking down the street with a fucking crowbar. Well, that doesn't mean I'm up to no good. It's a fucking mess. So society as a whole is fucked. And I just kind of get up in the morning. I do my thing. I fucking go about my day. I mind my own fucking business. And if I take a stray bullet from some fucking random kid, That's the fucking way it goes. I mean, it is what it is, but I'm not going to say that, you know, oh, we have to change society, we have to do this. Look, if you think you're going to fucking change society, you're going to change people just because you want to, you got a fucking whole fucking bunch of news coming to you, because that is not going to fucking happen. The world starts with change at home. Take care of your own things, take care of your own kids, and start at home, and hopefully that will send a ripple effect across the world. But, I mean, we didn't get here overnight, and it ain't going to change overnight back in the other direction. BioStreetChatting@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. www.biostring.com is the blog. It's a tragedy, suck bicep, and we are out.